and also Akina Ho, the co-founder at AllstarsWomen DAO. Akina, please. And also, let me invite Jayne Chan, the head of StartmeupHK at InvestHK. Jayne, please. So welcome all of you. So now let me pass the stage to three of you. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Akina and Jayne, for joining this interesting conversation on blockchain bridge connecting Hong Kong government and Web3. So I'm Bowie Lau, the co-organizer of the WOW Summit. Thank you everybody for joining. Maybe I should do a quick introduction of myself first. I'm a woman with many faces. Basically, I'm a venture investor and I'm also a venture builder. I do a lot of direct and indirect investment. I am active in the VC space as a partner of True Global Ventures, early backer of Animoca Brands, Sandbox, and Ledger. And very happy, excited to moderate this panel with two amazing ladies. So let's maybe start with a quick introduction of yourself. Tell us who you are and what you do with Jayne.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's a to be here. My name is Jayne Chan. I head up the startup team at Invest Hong Kong. Invest Hong Kong is a government department helping overseas companies of different shapes and sizes to come and establish here in Hong Kong.
Hi, I guess it's me.
Yeah, Akina. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I'm Akina Ho. I'm the co-founder of AllstarsWomen DAO. We're going to be an investment DAO. We're global. And I'm also a professor at Hong Kong UST, teaching transformation using the art of war. And recently I joined as an advisor, a venture partner at Pi Lab, which is a VC fund investing in prop tech and AI companies.
They're famous in prop tech.
Yes.
Absolutely. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, first question goes to Jayne. The Hong Kong government, definitely is pushing hard to become one of the world Web3 the best hub for Web3 companies. Since the virtual assets have been approved last year, and what are the new stuff that a Hong Kong government has rolled out since then or going in 2024 to drive the traffic to Hong Kong?
Well, I don't know whether anyone actually managed to listen to the keynotes this morning. The government, we had our Undersecretary for Financial Services and Treasury Bureau speaking about some of the initiatives that the government is working on, and we also had a Director General. I think to summarize, the Hong Kong government is hugely supportive of the whole development of Hong Kong into a Web3 hub. Now, you mentioned the licensing for the exchanges, the virtual asset exchanges, which happened in June last year. That has actually triggered off a huge amount of interest from companies who want to move into this kind of space. I think the deadline for all the applications closed last month, and I think we had 24 companies who's interested to potentially set up exchanges or get licensed in terms of dealing with virtual assets. So I think that regulatory is hugely important. Our government role, part of it is to become, that regulation, that ensuring as much trust as possible in the ecosystem, and a large part of that is on the regulation side. So more regulations are expected. There's currently a public consultation happening on stable coins, for example, for issuers of stable coins who want to potentially sell that to the retail public. There's actually a public consultation asking for people's views on that to see what people think if we ask, these kind of companies get licensed. There's also a public consultation happening at the moment on other areas as well, over-the-counter trading of digital assets. So on the regulatory side, I think there's definitely something. But there's a lot of other activities happening. In terms of infrastructure, for example, in the new budget, it was announced that 50 million Hong Kong dollars have been given to Cyberport in order to try and push this ecosystem and develop things further. Cyberport has also just recently launched what they call the Web3 Living Lab, And that's basically, if you've got any kind of good Web3 solutions and you want to try it out and see what the potential market interest is, you can actually go to Cyberport, leverage the Living Lab, and basically see whether it's something that has traction as well. So, I can talk a lot about the various things that the government is doing, but yeah, I think as we talk, we probably have a lot more kind of ideas coming through. But I just want to reiterate the fact that, the government is putting a lot of different kind of support, whether we're talking financial, whether we're talking resources, whether we're talking about a regulatory framework or talent development. It's a very serious endeavor that's being done.
Thank you for sharing. Definitely, regulations are the key to bring sense of comfort, security to the general public, especially to investors, right? So that's definitely welcome. But from a user perspective, Akina, do you think if it's working, do you know what the government is doing?
Okay, so I am a startup, and but the good thing about me, I've been here for 18 years. It's good to know that the government has approved the digital asset. But the things that you just said it yourself is only for exchange. And exchange in the Web3 world is only like 10%. But of course, the dollar value is much higher. There's 90% of the other company out there that are doing blockchain, DeFi, GameFi, DAOs, right? And other stuff, NFTs and things. What about the regulation for those companies? And I think majority of the startup that wants to be in that sector has no idea what are those regulations and rules are, and what type of licenses they need to get if they're not in exchange. Well, I think that needs to be addressed and needs to be publicly announced that it's coming or it's not coming, so people know where they should go. And I think that's from a startup perspective, we're really lost. I think that's something the government can really help and do. And then the second thing I think is that now that we know we need to get licenses or don't get to get licenses, who should we talk to that we can trust without paying an arm and a leg to process the paperwork? Like for example, AllstarsWomen DAO is going to be an investment DAO. And we're going to be on a DeFi platform that's a startup built in Hong Kong, supposedly to get all the licenses to transact everything within the platform. But if I'm doing an investment DAO, so do I need a license in order to run this DAO? But the platform that I'm using to run my DAO is already approved platform. So that is just a very basic problem we have, that I still couldn't have anyone to tell me where to get the answer, what should I do? But I need to launch my DAO soon because I've been building the community for 2 years. So, I mean, these are
That's
things.
a valid point. So, Jayne, what do you say?
Yeah, no, and thanks for that, Akina. Actually, we know each other, but we never actually discussed what we were going to be talking about. So it's actually super interesting to get this point of view. I think in the last panel, it's already been said, the regulations can't go in front of innovation. Frankly, the innovation side in this, the Web3, all of you folks are very familiar with this kind of space, so I'm preaching to the converted. You know what's happening here already. So to you, it's very familiar, but the majority of people out there, is still a very, very new thing. The whole industry, relatively, quite nascent. So I think this is a time where all these different companies are trying out different kind of technologies, different kind of business models, and different kind of frameworks. And I don't think as a government we're here to say you don't try all these different kind of things. I think the onus is on the government to basically make sure that the parts that really are interfacing with the public is actually protected as much as possible where that big financial impact takes place. But then you also have to balance that with letting companies, people, founders try out new things to make sure innovation. And I'm sure if you asked a lot of people here, they would probably say don't regulate us too much.
No, that's true, and I love what you said. The regulation should not be in front of innovation. So I just want to make sure if I push forward, you guys are not going to put me in jail because I'm going to start crowdfunding on a platform and then getting my members to invest in projects that are very vetted. Now that's the only thing I'm worrying about. So
No, and actually, just to, sorry, I know, I'm sorry,
Let's go
Barry,
at it.
probably, we all could just have this conversation, couldn't we? But I think going into your point about, whether it would be allowed, there are sandboxes, and you can definitely try different things within a kind of sandbox, various kind of Web3 kind of projects. But I will say, and I'll reiterate what our Undersecretary mentioned this morning, if you are doing a similar kind of activity, whether you're doing it on the blockchain, whether you're doing it online, whether you're doing it physically in person, the idea is that you will be regulated the same way. So, if you are equity crowdfunding, for example, there are already companies licensed to do that. Now the DAO structure is slightly different. It's much more decentralized, and there's not actually, a single company
Exactly.
as such. So there are kind of grey areas that's being played, and I think that's going to be played out in the market. Actually, we're going to see more and more new kind of models being put out into the market, and I think there's going to be lots of interesting things to see. Where is the legal point? At which point you say this is something that needs to be regulated, and at what point you say no. We've still got to let people try these kind of things out first, whether we're talking about within a sandbox kind of stage or whether it's something more loosely defined. But at some point, I think the market will figure itself out, and hopefully our government is also going to follow that up with appropriate regulations as well.
Akina,
Yeah.
so you share your comment, right? But what is your dream,
that I want to do.
that you want the government do, and what
Okay,
would be
great.
the wish list?
Well, this is what I want to do. I just hopefully I don't end up in jail. That's all. So I want to launch this. I want to roll it out, and I want to work and notify the government at the same time. And I don't want them to stop me and say we don't have regulation for that, but we see what you're trying to do. You are putting your whole DAO operation on a platform that's been approved. So suppose that whatever you do on that platform is approved. I don't get licensed to do that because the platform has done that, and I will do it with the how is it knowing FYI do the whole process with the government, and then for helping the government formulate concrete regulations and this is what we do, this is what we should not do, so then we can attract more startups to come to Hong Kong who wants to do something similar like that. When things are not clear, the government is open to work with us to clarify it, and don't punish us as we go through the journey. That's what I think is the ideal state, and that's what an innovative hub should be for something like Web3 and Gen AI, because we don't have any rules at all, and or use cases that is so profound that we said this is what we should do, and we should allow that kind of innovation, and the whole Hong Kong should be a sandbox.
Thank you for sharing. Jayne, you have been in the startup community for quite some time and built an amazing ecosystem with the StartmeupHK Festival Hong Kong. And what you're seeing and what you think needs to happen in the ecosystem to make Hong Kong hub for the Web3. And what I mean is that beside the government, forking out free money and support the founders and the investors, and corporate business must be, also contribute. The best thing work out nicely when it's two ways.
No, understood. And, I think I'm not a big believer of just free money, actually. I'm probably one of those types that have worked in the startup ecosystem for
I
a
don't
long
either.
time. I do think that the government should provide a level of financial support, but it's got not to be something that is really for every single person. I don't actually think that creates very strong companies, but that's a personal point of view and a very market-driven point of view. But you're right, it's not, the government is but one stakeholder in this development of this Web3 hub. There's all these private organizations, the business and professional services that needs to be involved. I think how do you actually get these other partners to be, or parties to really step in? I think events like this really help, actually. I mean, having different events, having networking gatherings, it basically just keeps reinforcing the message and the business opportunities that are out there. And business people are smart, aren't they? If they see like a good potential business opportunity, or they think like in their own respective industry, they see an issue and they think, okay, this person talking about their technology can potentially be applied in my industry to resolve this problem. I think, you know, the actual conferences, just reinforcing the networking events is really important. I think the other areas is also, I would love to see more businesses and more corporates actually adopting these kind of technologies as well. I mean, it's all well and good that people are coming up with all these innovative kind of solutions, but for as long as it's not being adopted, I think, you know, it's never really going to go that much further than like almost like a constant kind of sandbox, you know, doing different kind of prototypes. And I think on that side, you sort of understand, because on the one hand, if you're a corporate or you've got a SME, if you've got like 100, 200 people, you've got a decent amount of revenue, and suddenly you're saying like, I should try some of this new blockchain technology. I don't know anything about it. How does this work? What does it mean for my business? How many people is it going to take in my company to actually be diverted to this? It's a big risk area, and you know, typically a lot of the SMEs and some of the corporates are not big risk takers. So how do you actually get over that kind of hump? And I think one of the things the government has done, and I'm not here just to say everything the government has done, because it's just basically the frame of reference that I know. But for example, there has been a technology voucher scheme that the government has launched to try and encourage SMEs and corporates to actually adopt some of this technology, giving them like some kind of monetary route, kind of financial kind of inducement incentive to try and offset some of that risk. So for example, if you really think like having a new business on Web3 or on the latest ICP, for example, the Internet Computer Protocol, that with all the decentralized and AI kind of functions you have at a nodal level, you think that potentially can really help your business, then you can potentially try it and apply for government funding just to see whether that works for you. And obviously, if it does, hopefully you roll that out and you upskill your industry. I mean, that's what we want. We want to encourage industry to actually pick up on the latest kind of technologies that really will help them, but in a way that is reducing some of their risk as well. So, that's some of the things that we think, like, and also in terms of development talent as well.
Thank you, Jayne. Akina, tell us a bit more about the AllstarsWomen DAO. I know about it, but I guess a lot of us...
You're an ambassador.
A lot of us don't know what it is. What is the goal? What do you do? And how can we benefit from this?
Okay, so AllstarsWomen DAO started about 2 years ago, and the founder, her name is Leila Hersto. She was about 19, and then she had this idea of building an investment DAO that whereby the members, the community, membership fee becomes the capital to invest in projects that we all believed in, that support female entrepreneur or male entrepreneur, that support female in the Web3, and then I added Gen AI into that, right? And so we have not launched our investment DAO yet because we were in crypto winter, regulations were not really clear with the whole FTX issue. So we learned through all the different weathers, right? And then I have another ambassador down there, amazing. So we have been growing organically through 2 different channels. Number one, we have an ambassador group, which is a WhatsApp group by invitation only, whereby 60%, like you and I and Miriam down there, are leaders and founders, creators, C-level executives of the Web3 space. 40% are young and middle management professions in the Web2 and Web3 space. And we have a little bit students in there. And they are people who really want and advocate Web3 and Gen AI, and they want to be part of this community. So as we built the community in the past 2 years, we did a lot of events free. We never charge anything for events. All our events always have good venue, good food, good wine, because I'm a foodie, right? And it's all free. And the most vital thing is that it's all educational. And the people that we put on stage are people who are just starting out, who are founders, who are building something, has experiences and case study to share. Because a lot of time, I'm lucky, and again, you're lucky, and Bowie, you're lucky, and you allow us to be lucky because you allow us to be on stage. But we have built credibility. We are in position where we are okay to be on stage. For a lot of founders, when they're just starting out their own business, who's going to put them on stage? Who's going to give them a voice and launch their career and their product? No one's willing to do that because it costs money.
So you in the startup world, you got to have thick skin.
Exactly, right? So then
Yes.
All Star Women does that. We built stages, we put our members and people who believes in us, and in Hi Albert, I was another ambassador. We put them on stage. We give them opportunity to showcase their products, what they do, who they are. Most importantly, we want them to teach the audience what did they do wrong. Like we had one that built on Sandbox that learned like big time what didn't work. Left, built on their own, of course didn't work and shared that too. We want that. We did a what is Web3, and even before the government, Hong Kong government said that we're going to open for Web3, we did an event in November 2022 saying Hong Kong is the hub for Web3. Because this is how much we believe that Hong Kong is the hub. And I know sooner or later the government will turn around. We did What's Digital Fashion, we did Wellness in Web3, and we did a charity event whereby we trained children at the age 8 to 16 with their parents about blockchain, digital art, and meant them into NFT. And we launched them together in a gallery setting whereby the children sell the NFT. 100% of the proceeds, the children donate the check live to the non-profit organization called Principal Chan. Principal Chan is a local startup recognized by the Hong Kong government that support underprivileged kids for education. The average family income is only 5,000 Hong Kong dollars. There's no way these kids were proper education. So we do things like that and just try to change the mindset of what Web3 is. It's not a scam. It's not just cryptocurrency. It's not just NFT. It's a technology. It's a culture. And it's a way of life going forward for the future and also for people who are more mature like us to pivot career or think about another new career or evolve into it, right? So that's what AllstarsWomen does. We are launching our investment DAO very soon. We already have projects for our members to invest in. That's why I said I wish the Hong Kong government would work with me. I still can't find someone to help me out to work with me through the process of launching the DAO and not put me in jail if I do something wrong.
Well, thank you for sharing. Jayne, you know, from Invest Hong Kong perspective or your personal perspective, how to get founders, investors, corporate business to really help? And what kind of regulation or incentives do you think it will be needed to inspire such support?
Gosh, I never put regulations as an incentive as such. But actually, can I just address the previous question as well?
Yeah.
I think Akina mentions a really good point. I think the educational part is just so important in terms of getting mass understanding and adoption. I remember through the whole kind of .com era, you know, being here in Hong Kong during that kind of early stage. And just at the time, people were just saying it's a fad, or we just didn't have like the bandwidth to deliver on some of the business models that happened. You know, I feel like we are going through that new resurgence, and I do feel like you know, there is a level of education that's required. But I think the difference this time round is that we've got the cryptocurrency side attached to it, and that is, you know, more of a risk for sure. You know, compared to the early days of the internet, there wasn't that kind of big financial kind of risk that you're taking. But it isn't all, you know, the crypto side and things. So I do think that you know, the potential of, you know, people switching from Web 2 to Web 3 is hugely important, and I think that education needs to go on for mass adoption. Now, just going back to your question, Bowie, in terms of like what needs to happen, I think that, you know, the regulators, you know, way before we started, you know, coming up with these initiatives on fintech development in Hong Kong and the Web3 kind of regulations, actually HKMA and SFC have been looking at this for a very long time. We started looking, you know, with them probably in about 10 years ago, when we started talking about the potential of fintech, the potential role of Hong Kong as a fintech hub. And even on the side of cryptocurrency, all of that was looked at. And then, of course, you know, you do have to see what's happening in the market. And you know, we are also getting directives from from the mainland, telling what potentially Hong Kong's role is within the whole kind of ecosystem of China as well. There's no escaping that. So we need that kind of input, and we need to understand what's happening in the market before the regulations come in. But the regulations has attracted a lot of companies. I think that clarity that you get through the regulations, and even though at the moment it's only on exchanges, as you said, other ones are coming. And I think if the regulations are not too onerous, and the application process is not too difficult, I think lots of startups prefer to see that kind of clarity, actually.
Can I input something really quick? So AllstarsWomen DAO right now globally has over 90,000 followers, just among the core leaders, only a few of us. And we have about close to 800 ambassador people who are the likes of us, right? So if you allow someone, I'm not just saying just AllstarsWomen DAO, like any company, to actually go through the process and build a successful launch of the product, that will be the ultimate proof for other companies to come. Because actually right now there is no major big company that is actually doing Web3 that has regulatory implication that is successfully launched in Hong Kong. So once you have that one proof, then people will believe that Hong Kong government is serious, the ecosystem is there, regulation is supportive, and all the companies will come. That's how I see it.
And just to add to that one, I think, like I mentioned before, the DAO model is relatively new, but I think the process of what you're trying to do is not new. I mean, it's basically still trying to get a lot of people to invest potentially in companies. Now, Hong Kong has already got a lot of regulations in terms of that, and it's where that interface with the Web3 side, that is a question mark. So, there is a little bit of a grey area, but I will say that there has been, a lot of robust regulations already on basically investment and advising people to make investments as well. I'm not saying it's one or the other. I'm just basically saying what's out there already, and it's worth talking to, the fintech contact point at HKMA to basically have a chat, or SFC. They both got, and actually all the regulators have a fintech contact point to actually talk more with them.
I'm looking forward to that. Thank you.
Education is the key. Education gives us knowledge. Knowledge can turn to skill set, and skill set will bring something valuable to us. I think this is something I personally believe is very important. I also agree with both of you, which is why that kind of pushed me and inspired me to do a lot of educational events, starting with Meetup and subsequently with conferences. And yeah, I think, and also I have a side agenda openly, publicly, to bring more gender balance. I'm happy to have all female panels, So this is something I enjoy doing. So, but thank you so much for joining. And I would love to continue the conversation. I think it will be hours of conversation non-stop for sure. But we're running out of time. But before I wrap up, give us, I guess, one key takeaway to our audience, starting with Jayne.
One key takeaway, I just think that Hong Kong has we're seeing a huge potential opportunity in this whole start of the Web3 journey. Hong Kong has got a lot of different kind of components in here to try and support that. So I think it's worth, exploring that, getting involved, getting educated. It is something that's coming, and I just think it's an onus on us, on all of us, to actually get to know that a little bit more and to prepare and upskill ourselves for the future.
Akina?
I think I'm glad to hear it that you said that innovation should be ahead of regulation, and I believe that's the Hong Kong sentiment. That means that they're going to be open to working with new startups with new ideas, and work through the process and until it works. So that's what is making me very happy, and I'm very confident that I'll push forward in Hong Kong.
One key takeaway is you got to stay in touch with these two ladies. That's all. Period. Let's give them a big round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So please remain on stage and let's have a group photo first.